Look, at least promise me you won't drink. Alcohol always leads to trouble.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say was the jumping point where things started to turn around? It became, not as hard as it was with just 3 people doing this. Like, was there a certain tipping point in time where you're like,
oh, this is I don't know. Or like, I don't know if there was like one moment that I could pick out. I mean, moving here was huge.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest change in the history of this business that took Central Waters up, was moving to Amherst and building a larger facility that we can make more product out of. Got into more people's hands. The brand got more popular. We won some pretty key medals back then that brought the brand up a little bit. Our first one, truly our first medal was back in '99, and that was at the World Beer Cup. Our barley wine won a bronze, right? Was it silver? Bronze. And then in 2006, Burn Barrel Cherry Stout won a gold at the Great American Beer Festival. And I'd say, like, in terms of when things really got crazy for a hype level, was probably, it probably happened before the World Beer Cup gold, but that's where, in my mind, things clicked. Things change a little bit. When our 16th anniversary beer won a gold at the World Beer Cup, there was already hype going on when our 14th won a gold at the GABF, and then when 16 took gold at the World Beer Cup, that's when shit went bananas for those parties, man.
Yeah. For the anniversary parties?
Yeah. Just absolutely went crazy. And still is today.
Yeah.
So, before we talk about this facility and being in Amherst, I'm looking at a map here of where Junction City is. It's west of
the other side of Stevens Point. Yeah.
And it is, I guess, sort of centrally located around some bodies of water. But is that where the name came from? Because it's kind of this surrounded by this backward C shape of waters.
Yep. Exactly, right, and that's why the heron has always been an integral part of our design work.
Yeah. Okay. So, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are in a migratory throughway for the great blue heron. So, if you're looking at a map here and you can see the bodies of water, what you're really looking at is the Wisconsin River, and that's the throughway.
It does flow. Yeah.
Yep. There's just dams that make it turn it into lakes. Backwaters and lakes.
I've always wondered that, because the location where you're at now, here in Amherst, is not really surrounded by a bunch of water. So, but that makes sense.
The Tomorrow River is right down the road.
We do have a Class A trout stream running right behind there, not too far from the brewery.
Exactly.
Quarter of a mile away, but we're not anymore. And especially out in Junction City, there was what's the wetland out there? The big marsh.
Oh, the marsh.
I can't even remember.
The Dewey?
Yeah, Dewey Marsh.
Yeah.
So it was part of the Central Waters was first coined as a competing homebrew club. So Mike and Jerome, who both lived out by Junction City, was kind of ribbing the Point Homebrew Club. We're going to start our own homebrew club out in the Junction City area and call it Central Waters, And then it started as a few homebrews and then eventually made it into a brewery. So they were.
So when there was enough, was there enough brand recognition with the name Central Waters when you made the move to Amherst? When you bought it, was there ever any discussion of changing the name? It's just always been Central Waters.
When I bought it, and the company was barely 3 years old, was there a lot of brand recognition? No.
Yeah.
But I was already, after being involved for 2.5 years, I had my nose to the grindstone. I was already so focused on trying to improve on what we were doing that the whole branding, artwork type stuff had no play into what I was doing, And back then, you got to remember, there wasn't 1,000 SKUs at your big liquor stores,
right.
There wasn't many at all. And so for a lot of years, Anello actually had to talk me into rebranding back in 2013, something like that.
Yeah.
But
rebranding our packaging.
Labels were junk. They were all over the board. It was basically like, hey, we're coming out with this new beer. We don't have any money. Who can help design a label for us? So there was no brand consistency.
No, we were going to different friends to create labels. And you have to remember, our first, when we first went into a 12-ounce six-pack bottle, that was huge for us, right?
Yeah.
But we couldn't afford to pay for, the
printing
design, the
plates, design
printing
work.
plates. So
yeah.
we had a cardboard box, a generic craft cardboard box that closed on the top. And we labeled every bottle by hand. We get a roll of stickers.
Really?
And every single bottle, we would spend 2 days a week back in Junction just labeling bottles. You know, so you would just sit there all day long, and you would
And
just
you could tell
label
as they
bottles.
drank more throughout the day.
Yeah.
Every now and then you throw an
crooked.
upside down one on there.
Upside down ones just for
Totally.
the fun of it.
What does this
And
mean?
then, and then the
bottle.
Golden
label,
ticket.
yeah, the label on the actual 6-pack was just the label that was on the bottle. We throw another sticker on the side of the 6-pack. They were wider than the short side of the 6-pack, so there was always a little flap, you know, hanging off the side. And that was our 6-pack on the shelf. So you'd go into like a liquor store, and you know, back then, you know, the brands you'd see was. You'd have Pete's Wicked Ale, you'd have Summit, you'd have Sierra, and then a brown cardboard box with a sticker on it. You know?
That's the one right there.
You know, and so
And
that
now
was-
today, I mean, is
there
it-
weren't people with mobile canning lines driving around to throw your shit into a package for you.
Yeah.
That's like that was all before all that stuff. So you had to figure out what you could do with however much you could afford. You know, and that
Do
was
you
it.
dedicate a position here to branding, or do you work with?
We probably should, huh?
Our head brewer, his wife is a graphic designer, so she does all of our graphic design work for us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So she works from home and then basically freelances for us during the evening.
Yeah.
So
So all of the labels you've seen coming out in the last number of years have all been her.
yeah.